So one of my favorite people in the entire world is my little sister, Emily. Here is a picture of the two of us. She's 8 years younger than me, and she lives in Colorado with her husband, Chris, and her three incredible kids. And she actually works at a church too. We tell stories about what it's like to work in a church all the time. And this year, it was pretty awesome because my sister, Emily, got to come on the Calvary trip to Ghana just a few weeks ago. And here's the thing you need to know about my little sister is that she's crazy. She's crazy. She is a health nut. She is all organic, health food, protein powder queen. This spring, for fun, she decided it would be like the best Mother's Day present for herself to go ride her bike 100 miles over three mountain passes, just for fun. She's crazy. And here we are in Ghana, and we had served in a village all day, and it was like 100+ degrees, like sub-Saharan Africa hot. It was hot and dusty, and you were sweaty, and all the dust kept to your skin. And we did really hard work that day, and it was super, super rewarding. But we got back to the hotel at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And all of us on the team, we just couldn't wait to get inside to the beloved bliss of air conditioning units. And we all just wanted to go cool off and kind of relax from the day. But then Emily, she says, you know what? I think I'm going to go for a run. Those playing soccer for 3 hours with the kids in the heat wasn't enough. So she's going to then go for a run in this 100+ degree heat. And all of a sudden she just skips off and she goes and runs like a 7-minute mile, a 5K right there in the African heat. And then I look at my sister, and I can't help but see her like that. I always look at her as my little sister, and I can't help thinking, as I'm watching her run away, I start thinking about my own body. I start thinking about how, gosh, I wish that I had some of her motivation. I wish I had some of her muscle tone or her commitment to her health. I want some of that. I mean, isn't that what pushes you to run out in 100-degree heat? And so there's one day when I was like, you know what? Okay, while you go for a run, I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna try and motivate myself to be a little bit more like my crazy sister. And so I'm out there walking, and I'm walking and I'm walking. Well, I'm not really walking. What I'm doing is melting. I am melting on the African concrete in the heat of the sun. And she runs off, and the first things that start going through my head are like, gosh, I wish I was as fit as her. I wish that I was good at her. I mean, this walking, it's just walking. It's not even really good walking. I mean, I guess I'm just not really that good enough. And I know that we all feel like this too. We've all had those times in our life where we feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just not enough. I just can't quite measure up. I just can't quite get there. And it's like somehow someone, somewhere, everywhere, they seem to just have an edge up on you. They seem to have some kind of knowledge that you haven't quite figured out how to attain. Now I'm going to call some of you out right here today. And this is how your day starts. You're sleeping nicely in your bed, and then your alarm goes off first thing on your phone in the morning. So you reach over to grab your phone and you pull it over to your face to turn off your alarm. You kind of got one eye open as you're looking at it, hoping to just snooze a little bit longer. And then what do? You start to scroll. You start to check Instagram. You start thumbing through the stories. You start to look through Facebook. Maybe if you're a little bit older, if you're a little younger, you start to check out what everybody was doing on Snapchat the night before. If you like listening to people argue, you're jumping on Twitter or the new threads that's out there, or you're checking out your favorite news app. You're seeing what went on in the world while you were asleep, whether it be Fox or CNN or something like Flipboard or something. What ends up happening is that we start the day with comparison. We start the day of looking at the best parts, or even maybe the worst parts if you're a news person, of people's lives. And then we start to think about how they apply to our lives. And then there's all the ads that the algorithms have all created to be tailored just to you as you scroll on your phone first thing in the morning. These ads that are designed to make you want to desire more even before your feet hit the floor. Even before you start your whole day, you start to feel like you're not good enough. You see, we all compare ourselves to each other. We look at how fit they are, and suddenly our body isn't good enough. We look at their boat, and then we start thinking about how we spend our Sunday afternoons, how that's not good enough. Or we look at their lawn, and we wish that our lawn was better, that we could actually fight that crabgrass. Or we look at their family pictures where everyone's smiling, and they look like they like each other, and we wish our kids would just calm down and sit for just 5 minutes. Or we look at their vacation and suddenly we kind of want that. Or we see a picture of their fancy food at this fancy table, and suddenly our peanut butter and jelly sandwich doesn't quite look as tasty as it once did. We're in our third week of our worship series called In a Perfect World. And today we're going to talk just really honestly, just really openly about comparison. Now, I know you do it because I do it. We all do it. We're going to answer 2 questions today. Number 1, why do we compare ourselves? And number 2, what do we do about it? Now, the first question, why do we compare ourselves? It's estimated that in our digital world, we are exposed to between 4,000 and 10,000 advertising messages a day. If you want to understand exactly how staggering that statistic is, in 1970, that number was 400 a day. So we are blowing that out of the water. All of this advertising, all of this industry, it has a goal, really. The goal, if we're really honest, the goal of advertising is to make you unhappy. It's trying to create a sense of discontentment in you so that they can sell you something in order to solve that problem. It's trying to convince you that there's something else you need in order to be content or in order to be happy in this life. And then we've created these complex algorithms to go on top of it. You know what I mean? You go to your friend's house for a cookout and you notice that they have a really nice grill, and all you have to do is think about it for a second before it starts popping up on your phone where they're trying to sell you a nice new grill. And if we look at this dramatic increase in the past 50 years, between 400 to 10,000 advertising messages a day, I think it's easy. I think it's easy for us to understand why depression and anxiety kind of filter and infiltrate our culture, almost a pandemic of those things. And we don't just limit these things to boats or grills or houses or cars or clothes or things, but we actually take all this advertising and then we put it on our bodies as well. It's estimated that 78% of 17-year-old girls are unhappy with themselves. 50% of 17-year-old guys, they report that they are deeply unhappy with the shape and content of their bodies, deeply dissatisfied. And I would say that they are deeply poisoned by a culture that honestly, that wants to sell us happiness, but is never actually going to give it to us. So why do we keep buying into it? What are we doing to ourselves and to our kids and the next generation? Dr. Brene Brown defines comparison like this. She says comparison is the crush of conformity on one side and competition from the other. It's trying to simultaneously fit in and stand out. She goes on further to say, comparison says, be like everyone else, but better. You all have this little voice. I have this little voice in my head that all wants to fill in this blank, this blank. I need to be richer or prettier, smarter, kinder, bolder, patienter, happier, taller, shorter, better, cooler, wealthier, marrieder. Is that a word? I don't know. But buffer. I have to be faster, thinner, classier, funnier. All these What's your We start to get this little voice that says that who we are right now, it's insufficient. What we have right now, it's not enough. We are lacking, and that there's not enough. And it makes us start to compare ourselves with other people. We either look at what we have, and sometimes we feel superior to other people, oh, at least I have this, and they don't have that. Or we look at other people and we feel inferior to others. You see, we either puff up or we shrink down. And what ends up happening is that we start to feel this void in ourselves. We start to feel this space. So we start looking for something to fill that void. And so we start looking for validation outside of ourselves. There's something outside of ourselves to help fill the space that we feel inside, where we don't feel like we're enough. You see, every last one of us has a basic need and desire to be accepted, this deep desire to be known and seen and loved. But then what happens is that the fear of rejection starts to take over. And instead of being seen for who we are, we start to perform or to prove ourselves. Instead of letting someone see what exactly is going on we start to want to perform and make sure that we get the validation for others in order to fill that hole we feel in our beings. We look for validation in a number of ways. We look for validation by our accomplishments. We hustle and we work hard. We get that promotion or that title or that status or all those letters behind our name. We show off the vacation that we took with our loved ones, or we talk about how well our kids or grandkids are doing in their sports or their acting. We display our trophies and our awards and our accomplishments or articles written about us and our family. Or we look at validation through our stuff. I was in Chicago last week visiting my son Chase for his birthday, and right there in Chicago is this big shopping area called the Magnificent Mile. It's these store after store after store trying to sell you anything, trying to sell you what your worth is. As we were wandering around, I went and saw this store. There was a sweatshirt. I'm not kidding. There's a sweatshirt on sale for $700 with this like tiny little logo on it. And if that's your jam to own designer sweatshirts, I'm not judging you at all, but I cannot imagine spending $700 on a basically plain sweatshirt. But we do this. Why do we spend that money? It's because we're looking for validation from our stuff, our cars, our homes, our boats, our toys, our Lululemon, our shoes, our furniture, our golf clubs, all the things that we surround ourselves with. We also look for validation with our bodies. Have you ever met a CrossFitter? I mean, you would know because they'd have to tell you that they were a CrossFitter, like right in the first part of the conversation. Yeah, I used to do CrossFit, but then I stopped doing CrossFit because it hurt. We identify so strongly with our bodies. We want our hair to look just perfect or our abs, and so we spend fortunes on diets and skincare and exercise machines. Last year alone, the beauty and fitness industries, we as Americans spent $49 billion in the US. It's no wonder that we look for this validation through our bodies. We look for validation through our relationships. People pleasers. I know that you're out there. I know that I'm one. We try to gain our worth through the approval of our parents or our boss or our kids or our neighbors. And we transfer our value to how those relationships are going. There's this line from Kristoff in Frozen 2 where he's singing about his girlfriend Anna and about how he's going to propose to her. And he sings in this song, he says, "Who am I if I'm not your guy?" We all identify ourselves by our relationships. When I dropped my daughter Mackenzie off for college, I put on the song on the radio, "Ain't no sunshine when she's gone." And I just cried and cried and cried all the way through Maryland and into Pennsylvania on my drive home until my husband looked at me and he said to me, he said, "Why on earth are you doing this to yourself?" And I said, "Well, who am I if I'm not her mom? Who am I without the sunshine of my girl?" You see, we look for validation in our relationships. And here's one more, and this one might actually surprise you, but we look for validation in our religion. And might push you a little bit one because we're doing church here, but a lot of us, we want to seem like we are a good, decent, devout person in this world because we go to church every Sunday or because we have crosses or little boards with Bible verses on it in our home. We look for validation because we want to be seen as a good Christian. We want to have that image in our lives. But the truth is that we're all performing and we're all trying to prove. We all try to strive to show the world that we are enough. Whatever that is. We're all looking for validation somewhere outside ourselves. There's a story in the Bible, in the book of Luke, of a guy who does just that. To some who are confident of their own righteousness and look down on everyone else, Jesus told this parable. 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, God, I thank you that I am not like the other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector, because I fast twice a week and I give a tenth of all I get. But the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Here's one guy, the Pharisees, looking externally for validation. He wants everyone to see how awesome he is, and he compares himself to the tax collector who's sitting right there out loud in the synagogue. I mean, clearly this guy has something to prove by all of his boasting. But you see, Jesus in this parable is not interested in that at all. Jesus sees the exalted humbled and the humbled exalted. What Jesus sees when he looks at these two men and when Jesus sees when he looks at us is an even playing field, meaning that we are all the same. We've all fallen short. We've all screwed up. We all want to be seen. We've all postured for something. We've all cowered for something. We all want identity, belonging, and purpose. We are all on an even playing field. We are all the same. So back to our questions, why do we compare ourselves? And the second one, what are we going to do about it? How do we stop comparing ourselves? How do we stop performing? How do we stop trying to prove our worth? For starters, as Pastor Danielle Strickland puts it this way, humility is about you and God agreeing about who you are. To stop comparing ourselves, you and God have to agree about who you are. Because you see, your worth and your value, it's not in what you do, but in whose you are and what's been done for you. My friends, you are who God says you are. Do you know the things that God says about you? Do you know who God thinks that you are? When you think you're washed up, God says, no, you're a new creation. When you think you're not enough, God says, you are forever loved. When you think that you're scarred, God says, you are healed. When you think that you are weak, God says, no, you are strong. When you feel the burden and heaviness of your mistakes, God says to you, no, you are forgiven. When you feel broken, God says, you are whole. When you feel isolated, God says you are not alone. When you feel overburdened, overworked, and stressed out, God says, don't worry, I got you. You can rest. And when you think you're worthless, God looks at you and says, oh, my beloved child, you are worth everything. You see, the validation that you're looking for, the validation that I'm looking for, you don't have to prove it. You don't even have to earn it. You don't even have to proclaim it or go out looking for it. It's here. It's in who God says that you are. You are who God says you are. So later in that week in Ghana, my sister Emily and I were at a graduation for a women's school that we sponsor, and a leader approached her and asked her if she'd get up and give a little talk, a little speech. And quickly, my sister Emily, she shook her head and she said, no, I'm not interested in doing that at all. That's not me. That's Angie. You see, Emily and I, we are built differently. We grew up in the same house, we have the same parents, but we were created to be different. We think different, we have different strengths, we have different purposes. So why are you comparing yourself to someone who's built differently than you? God didn't want you to be the same, otherwise God would have made you the same. So why are we comparing ourselves to people that are built differently than us? Now I'm going to let you in on a secret. The Bible does tell you exactly how to stop comparing. Paul says in the book of Philippians, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. Here's the secret. Whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want, I can do all this through Jesus Christ who gives me strength. My friends, you are God's masterpiece. So just start believing it. You are God's masterpiece. If you're sitting with someone right now, remind them, because they keep forgetting and they keep comparing. Remind them that they are God's masterpiece, just exactly how you are. When we look for validation out there, remind them that they are God's masterpiece, just exactly who they are right now, that the validation comes only from God. So what if just today, you relaxed your shoulders and you stopped hustling and you stopped trying to prove or perform for God or for anybody else? You stopped trying to make everybody happy. You stopped comparing what you have to what they have. What if you just stopped trying to be more? What if today all you did was just exist? What if all you did today was get out of chair, sit on the lawn, and just exist? What if today you let God define you? You let God validate you. You let God show you just how much you're worth. Because you're already chosen. You're already enough. You're already safe. You're already secure. You're already seen. You're already successful. You're already wanted. You're already good. You're already loved. You don't have anything to prove to anybody. Amen.
But he brought me in, oh, his love for me, oh, his love.
Will you please pray with me the prayer our Lord taught us? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us for worship today. I hope that you take that what if and you just relax your shoulders and don't try and be validated by anybody but the God that loves you. We're so honored to be worshiping with you today. We'd love to see you in person. If you want to come to the church building, you can find out of all the things that God is doing on our website, calvaryalex.org. One of the big things that God is doing right now is our Vacation Bible School coming up here that first week of August. We are excited to welcome so many kids, over 350 kids here to Calvary for this incredible week of just joy and proclamation and reminding kids, giving them the message of what they are worth to God when the world gives them all these other messages. We're going to spend 4 days of being intentional in that. So we hope that you'll come and join us. Bring your grandkids, bring your neighbor kids, just bring all the kids. We're going to close now with a time of generosity. We're so thankful for all the ways that you give to Calvary. We're really grateful because it helps us to continue the mission that God has led us all to. There are 4 ways that you can give, and they're on your screen. The first is you can go to that website, calvaryalex.org, and click on the button that says Give. The second is that you can use our Venmo handle there on your screen. The third is that you can write a check and mail it to the church at 605 Douglas Street, Alexandria, Minnesota, 56308. And the fourth is that you can call the church phone number on your screen, and we'll help you figure it all out. Hey, thanks so much for being here.